When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, asking for help. "Lord," he said, "my servant lies at home, paralyzed and in terrible suffering." Jesus said to him, "I will go and heal him." The centurion replied, "This is a Roman. This is not an Israelite. This is not a Jew. He would be a Gentile. Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof. But just say," now he could be saying this because he acknowledges the Jews' prohibition against mingling with Gentiles. He has been around the Jews long enough to know that they have strict rules about not entering Gentile dwelling places. So he could just be saying, don't defile yourself by coming into my house. He could also be acknowledging Jesus' unique status as Lord, even more so than his just general status as a Jew who's not really supposed to go into Gentile places. But he also acknowledges Jesus as a unique Jew, as a unique Lord, and so he's doubly concerned about having Jesus come into his place. So he says, "Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I myself am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it." So he knows that Jesus has the authority to do this. All Jesus has to do is say it, and it will happen. When Jesus heard this, he was astonished, and said to those following him, "I tell you the truth. I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith." This is not an Israelite. This is a centurion. This is a Roman soldier. The Jews standing around him would not like to hear this. This would bother them. "I say to you that many will come from the east and the west," that means all around the world, "and will take their places at the feast with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven." Those are the patriarchs. Those are the iron rocks. Those are the pillars of the pillars. Those three right there. How many times in the Old Testament did we hear God introduce himself, or others introduce God by saying the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob? So if there's three guys we know who are going to be there, it's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If there are three guys that we can be absolutely certain, and Moses, who are going to be in the kingdom, it's those guys. And Jesus here is saying that people are going to come from all around the world, east and west, to be at the kingdom with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. If you're in Israel and you go all the way east, you'll eventually end up in Israel again. If you're in Israel and you go all the way around the world west, you'll eventually end up in Israel again. So he's saying people are going to come from all around the world to take their places in the kingdom with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But the subjects, or the sons of the kingdom, will be thrown outside into the darkness, but they'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So those who are supposed to be in the kingdom, the sons of the kingdom, the physical descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, some of the people that Jesus is talking to at this time, wherever he is right now, in Capernaum, some of them are not going to be there. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will be there. This centurion will be there. Many from around the world will be there. But some of those sons of the kingdom who are right there in Capernaum, who had Jesus talking to them, who lived among them, who literally lived in their town as he conducted his ministry, some of them are not going to be there. And they're going to be outside, and they're going to weep and gnash their teeth over that. They're going to be thrown out into the darkness where there is no light. And they will weep and gnash their teeth over having missed the kingdom, even though it was literally right there in their midst. Then Jesus said to the centurion, "Go. It will be done just as you believed it would." And his servant was healed at that very hour. So we know that he didn't have to touch anybody to heal them. He didn't have to touch the leper to heal them. The leper didn't even ask to be touched. He just said, "If you're willing, you can make me clean." Jesus was the one who went out and touched the leper, who reached out and touched him, even though normally you weren't supposed to do that. Jesus imparted his cleanness to the man. And instead, we talked about this before, about how, and we read, this was a thought experiment that Jesus had, I think, as, was it Haggai? One of the later prophets posed this question to the people: can an unclean thing, or a clean, does it work Does uncleanness transfer to corrupt cleanness, or does cleanness purify uncleanness? Basically. And for the most part, uncleanness corrupts cleanness. It is easier for uncleanness to corrupt something clean than for something clean to purify something unclean. But Jesus purified the man who was unclean with his own cleanness, and then, of course, told him to follow the proper protocol of what to do afterwards. Anyway, he didn't have to. He could have just spoken the word and he would have been healed. When Jesus came into Peter's house, because Peter lived in Capernaum, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her. And she got up and began to wait on him. When evening came, many who were demon-possessed were brought to him, and he drove out the spirits with a word and healed all the sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet Isaiah. He took up our infirmities and carried our diseases. Let's go ahead and read that. This is one of those servant passages in Isaiah 53. Isaiah 53. This is one of the great servant passages. This was during that stretch, Isaiah 52 and 53, that talk about the sufferings of the servant, both before and after this. And at the end of Isaiah 52 and later in Isaiah 53, he's going to talk about the sufferings of the servant, which are fulfilled in the sufferings of Christ. We read about that when we read the gospel, the crucifixion account in Mark. Right now we're going to focus on Isaiah 53, starting in verse 1. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering, like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he took up our infirmities and carried our sorrows. Yet we considered him stricken by God, smitten by him, and afflicted. And we go on to talk more about the crucifixion aspects and the suffering, and then you can read all of Isaiah 52 and 53 and get a full account of that. In this case, the point is being made. First of all, Matthew wants to draw his reader's attention to that entire passage and say this is the guy who fulfilled all of that. And this particular highlight here is that he's first of all identifying with us. This goes back to we read about this when we read about the book of Psalms. And we read about how in the end, like Jesus is the speaker of the Psalms. Now we all are speaking the Psalms. We can all see ourselves in all the Psalms. But the ultimate meaning of the Psalms is that Jesus is the one speaking the Psalms on our behalf as our representative, as our Messiah. So what is true of him becomes true of us, and vice versa. He takes upon our infirmities, and then he imparts upon us his purity. We just saw that with the cleaning of the leper. By touching the leper, he made him clean. He didn't have to do that, but that's what he did. So he imparts his cleanness and purity to us and takes upon our uncleanness and our infirmities in order to heal us from them. He is undoing the curse upon creation that was a result of our fall. All these problems, the leprosy, the paralyzed servant, the fevered mother-in-law, these are all parts of the fall. These are all a result of the curse on the ground. That was the punishment for the fall, and Jesus is undoing that curse and undoing those consequences.